Hey YouTube, welcome back to Nicole's View. So I first want to say all credit goes to Mr. Hezakya Newz. Now, if you are a sub on Hezakya Newz channel, you know that he brings some of the most amazing throwback old school documentaries, videos, specials, news clips, and I find myself some days just I can have a whole day of it, make a whole day of just seeing all the throwback news documentaries, stories that he posts on his channel. So I always want to say give credit to him, and of course you can see his name stamped on the video. But I saw this particular clip. Someone had uploaded it on Facebook. And so that's how I actually saw it, because usually, like I said, I'm a big follower of his channel. And this particular news clip that he uploaded, it must have been a while back when he put it on his channel, because I've never seen it before. And I just sat there and I found excuse me, myself just in awe, and not in awe of like surprised awe, but just like how in your face it was. And I know that's how it was back in the 50s and the 60s, and hell, even into the early 70s. This is how they were when it came to certain news specials and whatnot. And in this particular clip that will be included in this video, the guy who is the reporter, he's black. And I'm sitting here and I'm thinking, I wish I knew who it was. I'm sure I can do some research and find out who it was. But in this clip, this reporter, I mean, he's keeping the most, straight face, professional as you can be, dealing with such a topic that in some ways is talking about him too. Because many of them back then and even now still think this way, still have this racist, white supremacist ideology. And some things just never change. They only evolve. And it literally just makes you want to just, go crazy. It may make you upset, but at this point, we already know this is their mentality. Not all, but most. Okay, this is how they think. Even if they don't say it out loud, you can tell in how some of them their body language, what they say. You can pick up on it if you're truly paying attention to the words. Okay. And I love seeing stuff like this. I love vintage old school, especially that vintage old school racism, because man, it was like venom. They didn't care. Okay, they said whatever came to their mouth, and this is what they want to go back to. They want to go back to this. I mean, hell, we're practically there. They want to go back to Jim Crow 2.0. This is why the NAACP is telling folks not to go to Missouri, because they're trying to make laws. They're trying to go back to that. And some folks will say, well, it seems like the law never really changed if they're, this is what they want to do, because this is how they act anyway, So you have to sit back and just look at this clip. It may make you angry. It may make you want to throw something at your computer screen, throw your smartphone across the room, but don't do that. This is just these demonic devils and how they think. And with the white supremacist devil in chief right now, 45, this is what he's, playing to. He loves this. He loves the crowd that thinks like this. He'll pretend like, oh, I'm not racist, I'm not this, but we all know it's bullshit, okay? So him and his entire racist minions that run this country, we already know this is what they're playing to. They want this again. This is what they want. The photos, I am showing you the old school vintage, straight up racist photos. I'm showing you this is what they want. This is what they want. Making America great again. This is what he's talking about. He's talking about this. Okay, we all know that's what he's talking about. We're not stupid. Okay, and it's a play on words. It is white supremacy being on code. It's all of it. So seeing this certain news clip, it's amazing. It's amazing to see. And yeah, I just had to talk about it and show you guys. And like I said, once again, the credit goes to Hezekiah News, because if you guys are not subscribed to his channel, you should, because he brings some amazing, amazing work. It's almost like when I go to his channel, it's like opening up a history book, but just in digital form, just in the form of video. It's amazing. I love his channel so much. So if you are not subscribed to it, definitely go there. And yeah, so let me know what you think about this, guys. Like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you all in the next video.
For history. This Midwestern housewife, like a lot of white Americans, does not think the Negro should present history's bill to her.
We hear so much about the slavery. 300 years ago, our grandfathers were slaves, or 200 years ago, our grandfathers were slaves. Well, for God's sakes, did we have anything to do with that? I had no part in it. I had no slaves. My folks didn't. My grandparents didn't. Are they blaming us for what happened 3 years ago? Let's forget the past. Think of the future. Build up the future. And why keep hemming and hawing over the same thing over and over and over again? And they say, you must give me land because my grandfather was a slave. Well, then I would say, for God's sakes, find the man who had your grandfather as a slave and then demand the land from him. Don't bother me because I had no part of it.
Across the country, we asked whites whether the main reason Negroes had not made more progress was because of racial discrimination or because Negroes have not worked hard enough. This lawyer expressed a view we heard most often.
We find there is a reluctance upon the part of too many Negroes, particularly among the young, to take the hard and remunerative jobs that must be necessary to earn a living. There is a feeling that for some reason somebody owes them a living.
Just about half of whites in our survey said the Negro has not made more progress because he has not worked hard enough. Only 15% blames discrimination. Some had no opinion.
I feel that they're basically lazy. When this summer, for example, opportunity was given to them to better themselves in getting as many jobs as possible in various fields of retail, wholesale, and they don't take the full advantage of accepting the responsibility of going out for these jobs. They feel that they're not good enough for them.
About half of whites agreed with this woman, that Negroes tend to be lazy more than whites. And this woman mentioned another charge against Negroes, that they have low morals.
Their sex problem, now let's face it now, how many white people have 10 illegitimate children? Very few. Very few. This seems to be a trend with them. And I often wondered, what happens to these here men who follow these children? Are they busy making babies elsewhere, or are they busy in the civil rights march yelling for their civil rights?
And 4 out of 10 whites in our survey agreed that Negroes, more than whites, have low moral standards. However, half or more of whites disagree with some of the views you have just heard. For example, they reject the idea that Negroes are more likely than whites to have low morals. But for the moment, we're concentrating on attitudes opposed to racial integration. In Chicago, we talked with a group of whites who call themselves lower middle class. They are worried about Negroes moving into their neighborhood.
And they are not responsible citizens. Until they live like we are, we don't want them.
I don't want to live with me, to tell you the truth. Whether they take care of it or not, I don't want to live with them. Because they ran away from us. If I wanted to live with them, I wouldn't be paying high taxes like I am. I would have stayed where I was.
More than half of whites in our survey believe Negroes are more likely than whites to run down their own neighborhoods.
In the South, they throw the garbage out of the window and the pigs come and eat it. Here they throw the garbage out of the window and no pigs come and eat it.
In general, are Negroes as civilized as whites? 43% of whites said no, Negroes are not as civilized.
It's this image that he's building. They act like savages, like animals. They kill each other and rape and they rob. There's a riot. Well, they wouldn't burn their own places. They had signs all over. Soul Brother. It made no difference. They robbed, raped, plundered, looted their own people.
What about the way Negroes care for their children? About 1/4 of whites say that Negroes are less likely than whites to take good care of their children.
The colored woman does not take care of a child, does not help to educate this child. There's no problem about it. They're ADC. The more children they can have, the more money they get to go out and play the lottery. They get more money to go out and drink a little more gin. But to take care of the children, put a pair of shoes on them. I blame the mother for not educating her child when they're born, from the day they're born till the day they grow up.
Lower intelligence. 1 out of 4 whites also believe Negro children are more likely to hold back the class.
When you were in school, your mother made sure you did your homework before you went out. A colored child, the mother and father don't care if they ever do their homework.
And I feel that this is why the white child is so much more superior to the colored. And not because the colored child doesn't want to learn. It's because there's nobody behind him pushing him.
Lower intelligence. About 1 white in 7 agrees that Negroes have lower intelligence at birth than whites.
We're not all created equal. And as far as intelligence, there is a little book called Breeding Down, and it says in there where the colored is born with an IQ, not born, but it develops, to 80 plus, and the white is 90 and up.
About half of whites polled said they do not think most fellow whites want the Negro to have equality.
They don't desire an education of our type. They have different music. They have a different way of dressing. They have different schools or different churches. Their religion is different. Everything is different.
Sympathetic to the Negro, 38% of whites said they do not think other whites are sympathetic to the problems of the Negro.
I don't want to help them. I don't want to help them. And I don't want them living next door to me for the simple reason that there might be a lot of nice ones, but I got 4 kids, and I don't want them growing up with colored next door to them. Because it's a proven fact. They grow up, they think nothing of each other, they play together. Pretty soon they're in their teens, they start dating, and pretty soon they're married. I don't want my kids marrying a colored person.
We have just heard the views listed. Many whites who might be against a complete split between the races nonetheless have no desire to see the Negroes come closer than they are now. For example, about half the whites said they would object to housing for Negro families in present all-white neighborhoods. And 4 out of 10 whites say they would object to busing Negro students to better schools. We found when it comes to ways for the Negro to protest for what he wants, most whites are against Negro picketing or boycotting. In fact, against anything other than holding a protest meeting. When Negroes riot in our ghettos, what is to blame? The causes mentioned most often by whites have to do with ghetto conditions. But on the other hand, great numbers of whites say it is largely because of a communist plot, or that it's mostly young kids looking for excitement, or that it's a way for Negroes to steal things and not get caught. More than a third of whites say that when a riot occurs, it would be a good idea for police to shoot 1 or 2 rioters as examples to the rest.
Shoot to kill. If they're old enough to violate law, shoot them. If it's my own kid, I'd say shoot him. He deserves it. He should obey law. If there's laws for us, there's laws for Negroes. Let them start obeying them.
He should be shot. That's the only way we can stop him. I can't see where the policeman has to stand there and just hold his gun in his hand. For what? They're breaking the law, aren't they?
To review, what can we conclude about the degrees of white opposition to equality and integration for the Negro? About half of the whites in our survey say they do not believe most whites want equality. About 1/2 of whites deny that discrimination is the main reason for holding back the Negro. About 1/2 of whites say they do not want Negro families moving into all-white neighborhoods. What about feelings of superiority to the Negro? About 14% of whites say that whites are born innately superior to Negroes, and about 43% of whites say the Negro is not as civilized as whites. What about attitudes that may reflect a degree of white hostility? About 1/3 of whites believe that 1 or 2 rioters, and rioters today for the most part means Negro, should be shot as an example to the rest, meaning immediate punishment without due process of law, contrary to American tradition.